The 1992 season is around the corner on the NBA Sim. So let's get right into the draft lottery. I'm not a sports gamer, by the way. You might know that if you check the name of the channel. And yeah, we're going to start things off with the draft lottery in this video. So let's check out the results. The Washington Bullets get the 11th pick via Golden. They had Golden State's first round pick there, so they get the 11th. They get the 11th pick. The Phoenix Suns will keep their spot at 10. So Bullets at 11, Suns at 10. Phoenix Suns were very disappointing in the regular season and missed the playoffs. The Nets, they had a solid season, and now they get the 9th pick. So we'll see what they're able to do with that. Maybe they can finally crack the playoffs next season. We'll see. But they had pick 9. So far, nothing's changed, I believe. Indiana Pacers with the 8th pick. Okay, so pretty much everything is like it was in real life. Not real life. I mean, as predicted. Anyway, Clippers get the 7th pick. That means the Nuggets move up to the top 3. Wow. Nuggets, top 3 pick. Clippers all the way down to 7. The Heat, do they keep the 6th pick there? Yes, they do. So the Heat land the 6th pick. And let's see what they get with. Let's see who gets number 5. Pick number 5. Milwaukee Bucks, maybe? No, the Charlotte Hornets land the 5th pick. So the Milwaukee Bucks will be in the top 3. Very interesting. So let's check out the top 4 picks now. Minnesota Timberwolves keep the 4th pick, just like they were projected to get. And so that's cool for them. We'll see what they end up getting there. And now let's move on to the top 3. Number 3 pick in the 91 draft will belong to the Denver Nuggets, which is pretty incredible. I thought they were going to make the playoffs with Jeff Malone and Mookie Blaylock and Dan Marley. And not only did they miss the playoffs, they get a top 3 pick. A top 3 pick. Pretty crazy. And now let's check out the top 2 picks. Number 2 will go to the Milwaukee Bucks. They have tanked successfully and landed with the top 2 pick. We'll see if that nets them anything, if they actually get someone good with that pick. Orlando Magic, though, this is really the Larry Johnson draft, and the Orlando Magic do get pick number 1, and they will get Larry Johnson, grandmama Larry Johnson, so that's fun for them. I'm happy for them. Maybe, they're going to get an actual star. The Magic will. So that's cool. So that is the draft lottery. And from there, I believe we just go right into the NBA draft. So I hope that you join me for that as you check out the full results of the draft right there. And now let's get right into the draft. Up first is the Orlando Magic. Getting the number 1 pick maybe a year too early. Maybe they would have wanted to get the number 1 pick next year. But they do get the number 1 pick here. And it's going to be Larry Johnson going to the Orlando Magic from UNLV, the Running Rebels, who won the NCAA championship in 1990. So Larry Johnson to the Magic. Milwaukee Bucks next. They draft Anthony Avent. Very curious choice. Power forward out of Seton Hall. So, that's, you tanked for that? Then that's interesting. Very, especially if you see who's coming up next. Denver Nuggets, the 3rd pick. They get Dikembe Mutombo. Maybe the only Hall of Famer of this draft, I believe. I'm pretty sure he's the only one who's in the Hall of Fame. That's a huge pick for the Nuggets. That's really exciting. Kenny Anderson gets drafted by the Timberwolves. Anderson, very talented point guard. And the Wolves they got some talent now. Billy Owens to the Hornets, 6'8" shooting guard out of Syracuse. Who let me move on. Miami Heat gets Steve Smith. Steve Smith was a pretty darn good player in real life throughout the 90s for the Hawks. Now he plays for the Heat with Gary Payton. That's exciting. Chris Gatling to the Clippers. So they had a disappointing season, and now they get Chris Gatling, who all I remember about him is that he had a headband. That's all I remember about Chris Gatling. Indiana Pacers, Rick Fox. Rick Fox to the Indiana Pacers. He won a lot of rings with the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't know if he'll win many with the Pacers, but we'll see. New Jersey Nets get Stacey Augmon. Stacey Augmon, who played in real life with Mookie Blaylock and Dikembe for those 90s Hawks teams. Now he's going to play for the Nets, and it was a teammate of Larry Johnson's. So that's exciting. Bison Dele, rest in peace. Phoenix Suns get Bison Dele in real life. He died in like 2000. I think he got lost, right? He got lost at sea or something like that. It's pretty wild, that story. Victor Alexander, 6'9" point guard. Good damn. Good damn? Goddamn. Richard Dumas. Richard Dumas. I'm sorry, Richard. Dumas. Kevin Brooks to the Sixers. Dumas to the Bucks. Supersonics pick Steve Hood. I don't know who that is. But he's on the Sonics now. So good for him. Play for James Madison. JMU. Go. I don't know who. I don't know the mascot for JMU. Robert Pack to the Milwaukee Bucks. Another point. They got a point. They already have Chris Childs there. Now they got another point guard. Alvaro Teheran. I don't know. Is he real? I don't know. But he's on the Mavericks now. Washington Bullets with the second pick, right? They get Stanley Roberts out of LSU. San Antonio Spurs draft Mark Randall. There's some notable players left. Let's just try to get through the rest of these. Sacramento Kings get LaRon Ellis. I recognize his name. Atlanta Hawks Pete Chilcutt, who's a real player. I immediately Googled that name and I was like, "There's no way," and he's real. Larry Stewart to the Rockets out of Coppin State. John Turner to the Bulls. The Knicks select Dale Davis. Dale Davis is a guy. That's an actual guy. A solid player for a number of years. That's a good pick for the Knicks. It could be a solid center off the bench for them. And then Keith Owens goes to the Trailblazers. 6'7" small forward. Indiana Pacers get Rich King out of Nebraska. 7'2" center. Utah Jazz get Joe Wiley. Miami Heat get Doug Smith. That's the end of the first round. There's a pretty notable player coming up, Terrell Brandon. So Terrell Brandon goes to the Wolves with Kenny Anderson. I don't love it. I don't love that. I wish he had his own team. That kind of sucks. But I guess he'll come off the bench, and if he ends up being really good, maybe he'll get traded. You know, maybe the Wolves can use him to get draft picks. I don't know, but I would rather just have him develop on another team as opposed to have him be under Kenny Anderson. So I really don't like that at all. Doug Everson goes to the Magic. Mike Usolino to the Bucks. Daryl Armstrong to the Heat. Greg Anthony goes to the Pacers. I don't know if there are any more. John Crotty. Love that photo. To the... Who did he just go to? I don't know. All right, let's just stop. Let's just move on. Okay, so that's the draft. Larry Johnson to the Magic is exciting. The Bucks kind of whiffed in their pick, I think. I don't like that move at all for them. Mutombo going to the Nuggets, though, is huge for Denver. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. And I'm also excited about Steve Smith to the Heat because he's going to form a nice backcourt with Gary Payton for years to come. So the Heat are really starting to look like a team that could really be a fun playoff team very, very soon. And Stacey Augmon to the Nets also, you can't overlook that one either because he could be a nice backcourt partner for Tim Hardaway. So a lot of excitement there. Rest of this video is me showing you all the offseason trades that were made, and I show you each of the 27 rosters and all the moves that were made during free agency, and we'll see how all the lineups look. So yeah, check it out. Let's check out all the trades that happened during the offseason. First up, a big trade happened in July. Alvin Robertson, Moreland Wiley, Randy White all got traded from the Clippers. in exchange for Rolando Blackman, Maurice Cheeks, Mike Woodson, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick. And then another big trade, Chris Morris and Tyrone Corbin from the Nets uh, got traded to the Pacers in exchange for Nick Anderson, Cedric Ceballos, and Travis Mays. The Heat, the Magic had a trade. Pooh Richardson, John Long, two second round picks got traded to the Magic in exchange for Clifford Robinson, Eldridge Rekasner, and two second round picks. So that's a big one. And yeah, second round picks were used instead of first round picks. I feel like those players. I feel like Pooh Richardson, a top six pick in the 1990 draft, point guard of the future. Obviously, he has no place in the Heat now because Gary Payton's there. And Rick Hasner, even though he was picked highly in that same draft, or no, he was picked in the 91 draft, yeah. Um, and Clifford Robinson obviously is a really good player, had a really good rookie season, but Rick Hasner isn't anything special, and it feels more than fair, this trade here. So before the season started in November, we had Dill Curry getting traded to the Mavericks for a first round pick. That's a big one. Dill Curry's 27 and he's a hell of a shooter. You got Darnell Valentine getting traded to the Nuggets for a second round pick. Darnell Valentine of the Cavs to the Nuggets. Rick Mahorn on the Pistons, he got traded to the Clippers for Danny Ferry, and a couple of second round picks were exchanged in that trade as well. That's a big one. I'll get more into that when we talk about the Pistons. Mavericks traded Rex Chapman to the Jazz for two second round picks and Gary Grant. The Del Curry trade is the big reason for that trade to exist. Quentin Daly, formerly the Timberwolves, is now on the Rockets in exchange for Jeff Grayer and a second round pick. We got Walter Berry traded from the Wolves as well for a second round pick and Mark Randall. And what do we have? Okay, a couple more left. Rodney McCray got traded to the Supersonics for Keith Askins, a second round pick and a first round pick, lottery protected. Hank Gathers and Hot Rod Williams got traded to the Suns for two first round picks, Bison Deli and Jerry Sisting. So the Suns really have a great bench now. We'll get more into their team when we talk about them. That should make them interesting. Hornets traded away Tito Horford to the Suns for two second round picks and Michael Tate, who isn't a real player. And I'm trying to, I don't know, get rid of him somehow. Eventually, he'll just no longer exist, which is what I've been doing with some of these generics. I've just been quietly just killing them. Timberwolves also traded Mark Randall and two second round picks to the Hornets for Manute Bol. The Hornets had too many centers, so they had to thin the herd there. And then lastly, Wayman Tisdale got traded from the Nuggets to the Hornets for three second round picks and Mark Randall. I have found this is a much easier way to navigate teams and their rosters than the way I had done it in the past. I'm just going to give a real quick overview of all these teams before we wrap up this video. The 76ers, they have a lineup now of Nick McMillan, Maxwell, Lionel Simmons, Roy Hinson, Sam Bowie, Danny Shays, Andrew Toney, coming off the bench, as well as Shays, Avery Johnson, J.R. Reed, Vincent Askew, Kevin Booker, Haywood Workman, Isaac Austin, A.J. English. So the team, they're getting younger. Lionel Simmons is going to step up now that Adrian Dantley has walked. But other than that, I mean, the team is kind of the same as it's been, except Maxwell is now starting and Toney is coming off the bench. And yeah, they got Shays off the bench as well. He played a big role in the playoffs for them. Avery Johnson's their backup point. Yeah, I see this team as they're gonna see just how good they could be. If this team can stay in the playoff mix, we'll just leave it as is. But if they are really struggling, it might be time to break things down a bit. Roy Hinson. Maybe it's time to trade him. Maybe it's time to trade Sam Bowie. The Milwaukee Bucks, obviously, they're very much in the middle of their rebuild. Chris Childs, who won Rookie of the Year, is their starting point guard. Kendall Gill is now starting at shooting guard. Willie Anderson, small forward. Richard Dumas, Felton Spencer in their front court. They got Jay Edwards. Eldon Campbell is now in their rotation. Anthony Event, who they drafted with the second pick, is on the bench, which is not a good sign. But we'll see how he works himself in. We got Buck Johnson, Sam Mitchell, Robert Pack down here, Anthony Bonner, Brian Shaw. They got some nice pieces in Childs and Kendall Gill. They haven't really drafted that well. Anthony Event, we'll see how that works out for them. But overall, yeah, I don't know. They're just in the middle of a rebuild. They're still slowly working their way back to relevancy. But we'll see how they do in the '92 draft. Let's just leave it at that. We got the Washington Bullets, who I think are going to be pretty damn good. Stockton, Lewis, Sarah McDaniel, Catledge now is their starting power forward. You got Cliff Robinson, Gerald Wilkins off the bench. You got Ken Norman, John Sally, David Rivers, Terry Mills. You got Loy Vaught, Stanley Roberts, Cedric Lewis. So yeah, this team, I can see them winning 50 games again. It really depends on just how effective they can be uh, no longer having Jeff Rulin. So Jeff Rulin's gone. He's on a different team. And Terry Catledge is going to step up. And the hope is that eventually Terry Mills can take take the starting job down the line. But yeah, I mean, I really don't think they're going to miss a beat. I think they're going to stick around 50 win territory, and the hope is that they can eventually bolster their front court in the next year or two, and then they can really start having 60 win seasons again. The Bulls, we expect the Bulls to be elite. John Paxson, Michael Jordan, Pippen, Grant, Bill Cartwright, they're all back. B.J. Armstrong, as well as Stacey King, Harold Presley. They got from free agency Mike McGee as well. Scott Williams, John Turner from the draft, Rob Williams. These guys aren't going to play or see any minutes. But yeah, the Bulls, they made it to the finals. They are going to be hungry to get right back into the mix. So, I expect them to have their best ever season. I mean, they're very prime to do that. I mean, Scottie Pippen's a 94 overall, Jordan's a 99. Let's do this, right? Let's get things done, Bulls. Let's keep it going. That's all I got to say about the Bulls. There's not really much else to say. The Cavaliers, please, right? Could you guys do something? uh, I mean, they were 7th seed last year, but if you check their standings, I mean, they got to break through. It's about time that this team should be a lot better than 37 wins, right? Mark Price at 88 overall, Reggie Miller 91, Kiki Vandeweghe, Larry Nance, Kevin Duckworth, Anthony Mason off the bench. Craig Ellos here, Lewis Lloyd they got from the Rockets. Steve Kerr has improved enough to be in the rotation. So I don't know, guys. I hope they can improve and be a real playoff team, not a fringe one that wins barely 37 games. I want them to be a real playoff team. It's got this has to be the year, right? This has to be the year where that happens. So I'm holding out hope for that. They're in the riding into the sunset phase of their franchise right now with these guys, right? But they are still trying to compete. So they got Moncrief, who they traded for last year. He is 34. Marshall Lonis is the young one of the group. He's 27. Larry Bird's 35. Mikhail is 33. They did get LaSalle Thompson, who's 30. He's considered young for them. Dunham Royal off the bench. Mario Ellie. Dennis Johnson's still here at age 37. Robert Parrish is 38 years old. So they're a mostly old team, but LaSalle Thompson hopes to um, be a nice boost to their front court. And maybe they could stay where they're at. They won 48 games last season. They're just kind of slowly receding, slowly getting worse, but not that bad. And they gave the Knicks a run for their money in the first round last season. So Maybe they'll surprise us. I have no idea. I have no idea what the Celtics are going to do. They could win 42 games. They can win 55 games. The sky's the limit. Maybe they have a another big playoff run in them. We just don't know it yet. So that's the Celtics. The Clippers. The Clippers are really interesting this season. Shea Humphries, Orlando Blackman, Reggie Williams, Rick Mahorn, Purvis Ellison, Winston Garland, who they got from the Heat. I think they got it from free agency actually. Mike Kaminsky, Maurice Cheeks, Chris Gatling from the draft, George McLeod, Lance Blanks. This team, they could certainly make a run for the playoffs, but the West is going to be tough this year. I've said this last year, but when I talk about the Clippers, but yeah, they have some good players, but maybe it's not enough to make the playoffs. They don't have their own pick in '92, so they're going to try. They're going to try and make a run, and if it doesn't happen, they'll have to answer for their mistake. But they're going to try and get back into the playoffs. I mean, if you look at what they've done, 37 wins here. So they had a string of 40 plus wins in the mid 80s. They won 54 in 87. Then they've dipped a bit. They won 43 in 1990, and then they had their worst season yet in the sim last season. But I don't know. I could see them getting back to this range, 43 wins, maybe even more than that. I could also see them having a similar season to last year. If that's the case, maybe they trade Rolando Blackman mid-season. Maybe they have to deal Jay Humphries at some point. Because he's 29, and what's the future here for the Clippers? But I don't think they want to tank because then their pick gets even more value. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know if tanking is the answer, but they're gonna try. They're gonna at least try to make the playoffs, and we'll see how things go from there. The Hawks. Uh, so the big change here, obviously they have Mark Jackson like last year, like in years past, but he's only in his third season, really. Oh, four seasons. Uh, he was drafted in '87. That's right. He was drafted in '87. Didn't play that first year, and he's been playing at least for 3 seasons. That's interesting. Anyway, so yeah, they got Mark Jackson. They got Mark Jackson, Alvin Robertson now instead of Ronald Blackman. He's a bit younger than Blackman, 29 years old. Unhappy in Los Angeles, so he's on the Hawks now. You got Dominique Wilkins, of course, Kevin Willis, Ralph Sampson, Antoine Carr, um, John Williams, John Sunvald, Randy White, Morland Wiley. They had that period where they won 15 in a row in the regular season. Then they made the Eastern Conference Finals. So last year was a big successful season for them. We'll see how Alvin Robertson elevates the team, or if does he make him any better? Does he make him worse? He's a 90 overall, so hopefully he makes them better. But we're just gonna have to wait and see. But yeah, the Hawks, they should be as good as they were last year, if not better. The Heat, I think the Heat could be really fun. I don't know if they're a playoff team yet. I think they're a bit far away from that. But Gary Payton, Steve Smith, Harvey Grant, Clifford Robinson, Vlade Divac, Adrian Dantley off the bench, Roy Tarpley, Eldridge Kazner, James Donaldson, Brad Davis, Benji Wilson, Antonio Davis, Daryl Armstrong. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, they're not a playoff team yet, but this starting five, I feel like this is it. I mean, this is a fun starting five. They're young, right? 23, 22, 26, 24, 23. Young team. I'm excited to see this team. I really am. I think we're gonna see them a lot in the next video. When we look at the first few weeks of the season. So yeah, I hope to see a lot of this Heat team early on, so we can see these young pieces and how they fit. But yeah, the Heat should be fun. The Hornets should also be fun. Rod Strickland, Jim Paxson, Glenn Rice, Derek Coleman, Olden Polynice, who they got in free agency, Randy Brewer, Wyman Tisdale, AJ Winder, Sadell Threat or Threet, Billy Owens from the draft. Johnny Newman's here. Yeah, this team might be playoff caliber. We'll see. I don't know. I think that they definitely have the talent, but a lot of their talent is young, so maybe they need another year or two to gel. But the Hornets are definitely on their way. They should climb out of the cellar at least, right? They had 14 wins last season. They gotta at least be do better than that, right? They should at least win 30, if nothing else. If they can't make the playoffs, they should at least have a competent season um, where they show improvement. That's what I want to see most of all is just improvement. Can we get that? The Jazz, they won 59 games last season, their best season of the sim. They won 58 the first year of the sim. Yeah, they're the Jazz. Their starting five is there's one difference, right? So they so the Jazz starting five: Michael Adams, Hersey Hawkins, Chuck Person, Tom Chambers, Tim McCormick now instead of Mark Eaton, who retired. They got McCormick from free agency. Ennis Whatley, Mel Turpin still here. Ronnie Murphy, Rex Chapman, Ron Grandison, Daryl Griffith, likely in his last season. Yeah, this team, I mean, they won 59 games last season and they added a nice piece in Tim McCormick. So, and Tim McCormick's what? He's 29. So, I expect they should be as good as they were last year. Can they get deeper into the playoffs, though? That's going to be the question. I don't know if they have killers on this team, like real killers who can make deep playoff run. But Hershey Hawkins is still pretty young. Michael Adams is in his prime at this point, so as is Tom Chambers and Chuck Purser for that matter. So I feel like I think the fans, I think the players themselves are expecting more than just a second round exit. We'll see if they can make a deep playoff run. The Kings, the Kings also low key, despite having a couple of successful seasons, they've also had some early exits in the playoffs. And I mean, the starting five is still the same as last year. KJ, Hornacek, Mullen, Otis Thorpe, Sabonis. They got Walker off the bench, Gene Banks, Sam Vincent, Tom Garrick, Dennis Hobson, Mike Giommi. That's pretty much all the notable names. But yeah, I mean, we know what they're capable of. Can they get to the next level? They should make the playoffs easily. Can they get beyond that? So that's going to be the question for them. That's really all I have to say about the Kings. The Knicks, Sleepy Floyd, Bart Kofo, Bernard King, Charles Oakley, Patrick Ewing, Pearl Washington, Tony Campbell, Jeff Turner, Kerry Scurry, Alan Level, Dale Davis on the bench. Yeah, this team, they're pretty much the same team as they've been the past couple of seasons. Sleepy Floyd's been on this team for 7 seasons now. Bernard King has been here for a long time. He's had a nice long career with the Knicks, and I feel like let's just have him retire as a Knick. I feel like that would be nice. Same thing with Ewing eventually. I mean, Ewing is a long way from retiring, but I want to part of this sim. I want to make some corrections, and one of those corrections is having Ewing retire as a Knick as he should have done, and King as well. It would be nice to see him retire. He never had a big injury like he did in real life, so it'd be nice to see those two guys retire as Knicks and maybe get their jerseys retired too. That'd be pretty cool. But the Knicks, as far as their actual season, they won 54 games. They've been consistent. They made a couple of Eastern Conference Finals. Can they get beyond that? Can they get past the Bulls, the Pistons? That's going to be the big question. But this team is really solid, and they're definitely a real threat to make a deep playoff run. So yeah, I really don't see a need to make any changes here. This is a solid team. They have been for a while. Lakers, same thing here. Magic Johnson, Ricky Pierce, James Worthy, AC Green, Joe Barry Carroll. That's been the starting five for a couple seasons now. Byron Scott off the bench. Chris Washburn they have now. Terry Teagle's still here. Michael Cooper's back. Tony Kukoc has cracked the rotation. Sidney Green, Michael Thompson is probably no longer on the rotation. Yeah, the Lakers, they won the championship last year, right? They won it all. and they're gonna try to repeat. That's it's pretty simple. Everyone's back. We'll see if Chris Washburn is a nice piece for them off the bench. But yeah, I expect the Lakers to be able to make another deep playoff run, and maybe with Magic only 32 years old, they still have a lot of juice left in them. A lot of these guys are in their early 30s, and yeah, I think they could make another finals run. Maybe can they repeat? Can they make it? Can they win another championship? Orlando Magic are still a pretty bad expansion team. Pooh Richardson, Doug West, Kenny Green, Larry Johnson, their first round pick. Jorge Gonzalez is still here. John Long off the bench. Norwood Barber, who they got from the Nuggets. Frederick Hughes, Tim Perry, Joe Klein. Wasn't he on? Where was he last year? Oh yeah, he was on the Knicks last year. Joe Klein, Raphael Addison, Terry Davis, Doug Overton. Yeah, the Magic. My hope is that they're not like garbage. They're not gonna be that great, but hopefully they're not garbage. Hopefully maybe Larry Johnson elevates them a little bit. Pooh Richardson is a nice pickup for them. So yeah, I'm hoping for some competence. Maybe they don't win more than 20 games, but maybe they're not quite embarrassing. You know, so that's a low bar to reach. Hopefully they can reach that. Dallas Mavericks, same starting five as usual. Derek Harper, Joe Dumars, Mark Aguirre, Charles Barkley, Moses Malone, and now their bench: Del Curry, Marquez Johnson's back. He's 80 overall. Thurl Bailey, Gary Grant, Alton Lister. The team is a bit old. Lick, Todd Lichty's is kind of young, but yeah, it is kind of an old team overall. Harper is 30. Dumars is 28. Mark Aguirre is 31. Charles Barkley's 28. Moses Malone is 36. So yeah, they got kind of they got some guys in their prime, but they also got some guys who are aging. But they hope that they hope that their bench is strong enough to get them back into the mix to become to get back into becoming an elite playoff team. That's the hope, and maybe they can go beyond that. Maybe they can get back to the finals. But I don't know. And if it doesn't happen, I feel like a big move needs to be made. Not this year. We'll play things out this year, and Moses Malone might be. Who knows how much longer he has before he decides to. He said this is his contract year, so he has 1 year left. Is he going to retire? Is he going to hang it up after this season? Because if that is what he decides to do, and right now he seems intent on getting a new contract. But yeah, I mean the Mavericks will have some big decisions to make next offseason. We'll see how things play off this time around. Maybe they can strengthen their bench even further. They do have some draft picks they could at their disposal that they could use to improve. But overall, I think they're going to try to make it work with this group and see if they have enough to make the finals. And if they don't, then they will have to start thinking about maybe breaking up the starting five, especially if Moses Malone wants to come back. I think they'd have to let him walk and get younger at the center position next season. But then Mark Aguirre, Derek Harper, is it time to think about retooling around Barkley and Dumars? Maybe that's the answer. But you just got to think, who would you replace? How would you replace Derek Harper? How would you replace Mark Aguirre? Just how much better could you make your team if you replace those guys? And if you really think about it, how exactly if you indulge me here, small forwards, right? Who's better than Mark Aguirre? Mark Aguirre is where is Mark Aguirre? He's here. You got Len Bias above him. You got Dominique Wilkins, James Worthy, Chris Mullin, Larry Bird, Scottie Pippen. That's it. They're not going to get any of those guys. So then you think about, is there a younger guy they can get? Is there would Xavier McDaniel make them any better? Uh, Chuck Person, they wouldn't get him. You know what I mean? Like these guys, they're not gonna get. I mean, Kenny Green, I don't think he's gonna make the Mavericks any better. So I feel like they're kind of stuck. You know, it's like if you can't make it work with Mark Aguirre, how are you gonna make it work? And then if you look at like centers, Moses Malone is here. You got Ellison not going anywhere. Rick Smits, Thompson, Batumbo, Lambeer. These guys are all staying put. Sampson, Doherty, Sabonis, Ewing, Olajuwon, Robinson. If you go below Malone, Sam Bowie. Maybe Sam Bowie's the move next year. Duckworth, Joe Barry Carroll, Cycli. He's had a new deal. You know, maybe if the Heat are bad and they have a chance to draft Shaq, maybe they trade Divac to Dallas. But you know, it's just there really isn't an obvious answer to replace Moses Malone next season if they decide to part ways with him. So yeah, the Mavericks they're in a weird spot because they definitely have talent. They just can't seem to, you know, they won the championship in '87. They made the finals in '88, but they just can't seem to get this group uh, deep into the playoffs, or at least to the back to the finals. You know, the Lakers seem to have their number in the West at this point. So the Nets, the Nets have really changed a lot. They got Tim Hardaway, they got 23-year-old Nick Anderson, Kelly Tripica has joined the Nets, Sam Perkins, Michael Cage, Charles Shackelford, John Bagley, Jeff Sanders, Stacey Augmon, Cedric Sabalos, Bison Daly, Travis Mays, D. Brown, Cedric Maxwell. The Nets are hoping to make the playoffs this season. They're hoping that's something they can do. I feel like they have the pieces to do it. Maybe their bench could be better. They have a bunch of first round picks this season too. So if they wanted to improve their team, if Tripica isn't the answer, maybe they replace him with somebody. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. The Nets they won 37 games last season, and I feel like they got better. So hopefully that means a run at the playoffs. The Nuggets, I also think the Nuggets could make the playoffs. Blaylock, Malone, Jeff Malone, Dan Marley, Charles Smith, Dikembe Mutombo, rookie Dikembe, 87 overall. That could be interesting. Andrew Kennedy is here. They got from free agency. Jack Sikma, Darnell Valentine, Derek Chivas, Jay Vincent. This team is pretty deep, and they have a lot of young talent. Blaylock is only 24. Marley is 26. Mutombo is 25. Charles Smith is 26. So obviously Jeff Malone is a little bit older than that, but I think the hope is that Jeff Malone could be the centerpiece of their offense. He needs to score more. You know, he needs to score the way he did in the mid '80s, and the hope is that um, you know these young pieces can be led by Jeff Malone, and Jeff Malone can take them to the playoffs and beyond. I mean, they definitely have a talented team. We'll see if they are a playoff team. I feel like they are. I feel like they're definitely going to be worth watching. That's for sure. Mutombo is definitely going to be worth watching. I mean, I'm excited to see just how he fits on the team. This team should be a defensive monster. They have so many guys who can defend. They should be a nightmare for opposing teams on defense. The Pacers, please do something. Michael Williams, Mitch Richmond, Chris Morris, Carmelo, Bama Benjamin, Fred Roberts, Scott Skiles, Tyrone Corbin, Kirk Lee, Gary Leonard. I don't know, dudes. this team, this team always lets me down. I mean, yeah, they've been kind of mediocre this whole sim, but I gotta think they're gonna be good this year. It just feels like this should be the team that actually gets them over the hump. They made the playoffs 2 seasons ago, but they weren't that impressive doing it. You know, I'm hoping they're much more impressive this year. Can they win 50 games? Can they be that kind of team instead of a team that can barely make the playoffs and sometimes they don't. I'm tired of seeing that from them. I'm hoping this team can be much better than that. Pistons, they traded away Rick Mahorn. You got Isaiah Thomas, Ron Harper, Alex English, Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer. Their bench has got they got some young guys on the bench. Willie Burton, Reggie Diaz obviously is not young. Neither is Darrell Walker, but Ed Pinckney is also not that young, 28. Jason Williams is young, but he's probably not going to be playing. Where's Danny Furry? There he is. Oh, have I not? Hold on a second. I don't think I made the adjustment. There we go. Now Danny Ferry's getting some minutes on the bench for the Pistons. They lost Rick Mahorn, but the hope is that Rahman will be able to step up. He in real life he was a defensive player of the year twice, and so we need to start seeing that out of him. He needs to start playing big minutes because right now he's averaging what? He had 32 minutes last season, but he needs to start averaging like 36 minutes a game, really showcasing his defensive eliteness. So I'm hoping that's what we get out of him in this upcoming season. He start really being a rebounding force in this league, and this team should be really good. They have the talent. They just need to uh, execute. I mean, Alex English is pretty old, 37 years old, but and Isaiah Thomas is getting pretty old as well. Bill Laimbeer is 34. So they have some guys who are aging, but overall, they're still a really solid team that should be able to go. Maybe they won't get bounced out in their first round like they were last year against the Sixers. So yeah, they really got to make up for that. That's embarrassing. So hopefully they can you know pay back. I don't know, revenge. I don't know. Yeah. Pistons got embarrassed in the last playoffs, and they need to do something about that this year. We'll see if they do. The Rockets, Doc Rivers, Dale Ellis is in the Rockets now. Purvis Short, Lorenzo Charles, Hakeem Olajuwon. They got some long dudes. They got Roy Marble, Jeff Rulin off the bench. Jeff Rulin is now in the Rockets. Got Vern Fleming, got Quentin Daly. They got a really good bench. Can this team avoid getting swept in the first round? I mean, that's really the question here. They got some good players. They have a great roster, but a deep playoff run remains to be seen. They did make the Western Conference Finals a few seasons ago, and they've been really solid. They've been a very consistent playoff team for a number of years now. They just don't really. When the playoffs come around, there's just other teams that just seem to have their number, that just seem to do better than them. So I don't know. I really don't know what to expect from them this upcoming season. Spurs, they have Fat Lever now as their point guard. Ricky Berry, Jerome Kersey, Terry Cummings, David Robinson. The rest of the starting five is the same. Darwin Cook off the bench. Herb Williams, Walter Berry, Keith Edmondson, Johnny Dawkins, Vinny Del Negro. The Spurs had a pretty good season last year. They won 51 games, their best season since The Sims started. And the hope is that they'll build off that and be even better this upcoming season. Now that they have Fat Lever, who is 31 years old and still has some left in the tank. So we'll see how that goes for them. The Suns, they were really disappointing last season. Their starting five is still the same: Kenny Smith, Danny Ainge, Sean Elliott, Danny Manning, Brad Doherty. You got Hot Rod Williams off the bench, Wes Matthews, Tito Horford, Rod Douglas, Hank Gathers, Kevin Edwards, Luke Longley, and Judd Bushler are back here. I mean, they have the talent on the bench. They got a good starting five. I like to think they're going to make the playoffs this season. They had a hugely disappointing season last year. I'm thinking that's not going to happen this year, but we'll see. The Supersonics, Spud Webb, Drazen Petrovic, Derek McKee, Sean Kemp, Rick Smits, They lost Olden Polonies. Their bench now includes Rodney McRae, Mahmoud Abdul Ralph is here, Blair Rasmussen, Keith Smart, Daryl Dawkins, Chris Dudley, Malcolm Quinn, Albert King. Their bench, they used to be kind of a loaded team with a lot of young talent. That's not really the case anymore, but their starting five is pretty great. So I hope that that's enough to carry them into uh, getting back into the playoffs. Timberwolves. So they drafted Kenny Anderson. He's their starting point guard. Blue Edwards is here. Dennis Scott. Armin Gilliam, who they got from the Armin Gilliam? Armin Gilliam. Gilliam, yeah. Armin Gilliam, who they got from the Nets. Greg Anderson. Larry Drew off the bench. Cliff Livingston is here. Yeah. Manu Bol is here. Kevin Gamble. Scott Brooks. This is kind of a fun team. Terrell Brandon is here. Yeah, they got a lot of fun young players. Hoping they're at least slightly better than they were last year. They won 11 games. Can they do better than that? I mean, this team has been very poor, but they definitely have a young, talented team, right? They need to, Kenny Anderson is definitely fun. I feel like the Wolves definitely have a lot of fun players with Kenny Anderson, Dennis Scott shooting threes. I guess that's really it. Blue Edwards, I don't really have much opinions about, but Voodoo Bowl's here. That's fun. So Terrell Brennan's here. I think the hope is that Terrell Brennan ends up being good, and they could trade him for assets because Kenny Anderson is the guy of the future. So that's the Wolves are going to be very bad, but maybe they can develop into something interesting. Have an interesting development season. You get the Trailblazers. They're pretty elite. Terry Porter, Clyde Drexler, Clark Kellogg, Buck Williams. Dino Raja is now their starting center, which I thought would always end up happening, and now it looks like it's finally happening. So that's fun. They got Nate Blackwell, Ramil Robinson, Anthony Cook, Joe Wolf, Danny Vrains, Keith Owens, Tony Massenberg. Yeah, this team they have a lot of fun young players off the bench, and they have that starting five. That's pretty good, pretty classic starting five. And then Dita Raja, who's only 24, but it's been a really good player for them. Really good player. And I think the hope is that he can elevate them even further than Tim McCormick had, and maybe they can get back into the finals. Right? They won it in 1989. They won the championship just a couple seasons ago. Can they do that again? We'll see. Warriors. The Warriors have been knocking on the door of the playoffs these last couple of seasons. I think they made it in '89, right? And yeah, the lineup includes Bogue, Starks, Bias, Shrimp, and Cycli, like usual. Mike Mitchell's back too. Paul Pressey's here. Grant Long, William Bedford, Dana Barros is here. Jose Antonio Montero has been here for quite some time now. And a bunch of other people who don't matter. I think Derek Strong is a guy, but he just hasn't been playing at all. Uh, yeah, the Warriors. I mean, it's about time they did something. You know, they have some good players here. Can they make a serious run in the regular season and make the playoffs? I mean, they definitely have the talent. We'll have to see if they actually execute. And yeah, we'll have to see if they actually live up to expectations. So that's it. That's the league. We got a lot of interesting teams. Um, the East. If you look at the East, of all the teams who I would say like definitely don't seem playoff caliber yet, obviously the Bucks. Um, the expansion teams are probably still far away from that. Heat and Hornets, Magic, right? But other than that, and the Hornets and Heat could surprise. Other than that, everyone else at least has a shot to make the playoffs. You know, so that's about 10 teams, 11 teams that has a real honest shot to make the playoffs. So that's exciting. At least right now, that's what it looks like. And then in the West, I mean, the Clippers I can see make the playoffs with Rondo Blackman and Rick Mahorn on the team now. Yeah, there really isn't any team here that I could point to and say, oh yeah, that obviously is a team that's going to struggle, right? Timberwolves, that's the one team. They're obviously going to be really bad. Everybody else, all 12 other teams, I can see make the playoffs. I can make the case for each of these teams making the playoffs. So the West is going to be a true bloodbath. The East, I can kind of see the Sixers faltering, and the Cavaliers and Pacers have been disappointing me in years past, so I can see that happening again. The Nets, maybe they're not quite there yet. So there's some East teams where I can understand missing the playoffs, but these Western Conference teams, I mean, even the Nuggets, it's like you look at this roster, you're like, wait, how could they not make the playoffs? This team is freaking talented as hell. So same thing with the Suns, right? The Sonics. So yeah, a lot of interesting teams, a lot of fun teams, and this 92 season, I think it's going to be a little bit more sleeker than the previous season. I want more 40 to 45 minute videos. No 55 to 59 minute videos this season, except for maybe the playoffs. We'll see how the playoffs shake out. But the goal is to kind of get through 92 season a little bit quicker than 91 season, so that we can get to Shaq and Alonzo Mourning in the 92 draft, right? I mean, I'm really excited about this. This is, yeah, Shaq, Alonzo Mourning. That's pretty much it with this draft. I mean, there's some interesting role players: Christian Laettner, Jim Jackson, Malik Sealy. There's somebody deep, right? There's somebody deep in this draft that's actually a star. That would be PJ Brown's here. That's pretty cool. Anthony Peeler, I know that. I know him. Um, Latrell Sprewell. Latrell Sprewell is, I mean, right now he's projected to be in the second round. I assume by the end of the season he should be a top five pick in this draft. So yeah, I mean, Latrell Sprewell is also a player to look out for in this draft. But yeah, this draft, I'm really looking forward to seeing where Shaq lands, where Alonzo Mourning lands, and where Sprewell lands. And who's going to be the unlucky team that gets Leitner, you know? So a lot of interesting teams, a lot of interesting storylines in this sim at this point. So I'm looking forward to yeah, another season uh, with this sim, and hopefully we get a lot of entertaining games, entertaining results, and some fun playoffs. So I hope you're looking forward to that. That's the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you soon.